Okay. Start off. 1791. I will go slowly with these. This is the year the French Revolution began. French Revolution began in 1791. 1861 to 18. This is the dates for. Anybody want to guess the dates for what? The American Civil War, 1861 to 1865. Began at that time. 1939, I've mentioned that. That's the dates for World War II. 1914 to 1918, the dates for World War I. Now, 1870, that was the year that the year that Germany and Italy were united. Both countries were united the same year. 1870. Now, folk, every one of you who've lived in the United States should know this next one. What is significant about the date 1776? We declared our independence from Great Britain on July 4th of that year. And I recall when the first year I taught, the social studies teacher said, I want to make sure that all these pupils know why we celebrate the 4th of July. But anyway, we just celebrated 3 weeks ago today, 4th of July. I celebrated by going to Disney World, but that's something. Anyway, we saw a lot of fireworks that night too. 1776, that's a date that we declared. Now, we were not actually free. Britain still had an army here until 1781, when we finally beat them. And in 1783, they called their army home. 1975. All right, 1975 was the year that Vietnam fell to the communists, and the United States had lost its first war. 1950 was the year the Korean War began, and just for those of you who don't know, the Korean War never ended officially. It's still going on. All they did was call a truce and agree to stop fighting, but the Korean War never ended, so it's going on from 1950, basically 69 years now, and with no real end in sight. 1950. 1848, that's remembered as the year of revolutions. The revolutions began in France and spread to Austria, Italy, and a few other countries. Great Britain never had a revolution after the revolution with us. They didn't have another one after that. But 1848, the year of revolutions. 1990, that is the year of the final breakup of the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union broke up into 16 republics. It began in 1989 when Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania left them. And then everybody revolted at once. All 15 of the republics wanted to break away from Russia, in addition to the Eastern European countries, East Germany, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, all of them broke away, and the Soviet Union was powerless to bring them back in. The Soviet Union had been greatly weakened by its involvement in Afghanistan, so everybody, it seems, rebelled at once. And the Polish people, the Czech people, all told the Soviets, go home and stay home. And the Soviets quietly went home. 1990 was the year. That's also the year Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. All right. What president broke open diplomatic relations to China when he made a visit to China?
Nixon.
Richard Milhous Nixon. All right, yeah. All right, now here's one, folk, that has been asked already. Lenin's secret police are known as the Cheka. Yeah, that one. I mean, I try to avoid that. But, all right. Cheka. the PLO. What do we know about the Palestine Liberation Organization, or PLO? It was formed to fight what? Fight whom? Fight by the Palestine Liberation Organization. All right. It was formed to fight Israel. It was led by Yasser Arafat. And it often resorted to terrorism against Israel. And after Yasser Arafat died, the terrorism started to increase. But then Israel did something that actually has completely stopped the terrorism. They put the Palestinian people inside of walls, high walls. They let them out, but only after it's been proven they have no bomb equipment on them. And also, now folks, this is controversial, the Israelis do what's called racial profiling. When I went to Israel in 1985, someone, he was a cop, basically an Israeli cop, slipped a gun in the backpack of one of the men I was traveling with while he wasn't looking. And then the lady who was in charge of checking the backpacks all of a sudden saw this gun, and she actually turned white, turned pale. She thought that, no, the man who was traveling with did not carry the gun. But it was put there in his backpack to see if that woman was on the ball. She was. She found the gun. If she hadn't, she'd probably been fired from her job and been out looking for work. But they were that tight. Even in 1985, when I was in Israel, they were that tight. Again, terrorism largely stopped against Israel. Well, they still fire rockets at Israel. And Israel fires back. All right. Okay. I was asked one time when I was at Lockheed, how have we benefited by helping Israel? Well, folk, I had to think of that for a while. Here's where we benefited. Israel received military aid in the form of equipment, not actually troops, in the form of equipment from the United States. Who supplied the Arab world with their fighting equipment? Anybody know? Soviet Union. So the Soviet Union supplied the Arab world, and we supplied Israel. So when the two sides clashed, Israel and its Arab neighbors, you all know, it's like the Israeli armies just huffed and blew the Arabs off the battlefield. It was proven that Russian-made equipment was not as good as equipment made in the USA. Now that may not be as true now as it was then, but the Russian equipment was inferior to the equipment made in the United States. How did this benefit us? It made the Russians think twice before invading us. Oh yeah, they had twice as many submarines, 3 times as many airplanes, twice as many armed men, but their equipment did not work. One of my brothers was stationed in West Germany, was in the army, and he was spying on East Germans, and he said they knew that half of the East German tanks were in a repair shop all the time, and most of the time when they went to repair, they stayed there for months. It wasn't like they got in the repair shop and got in. I mean, can you imagine what chaos we'd have if you go out to your cars when the class is over and half of your cars wouldn't start? Now, there'll about be a car or two here and there that won't start today. I mean, somebody did not realize her battery was on its last legs and the battery ran down, or somebody had a fuel pump break. I mean, that's happened. It's not very common. But can you imagine what it would be like if half the cars that are in service actually did not work? That's basically what's the problem with the Soviet tanks. So how did we benefit by helping Israel? By letting Israel fight with our weapons while the Arabs fought with Soviet-made weapons. And the result was the Soviet Union decided they better not fight dealing with the United States. Now, I don't know if that's as true as in 2019 as it was in the 1970s and 1980s. With the Soviet Union, there's no war, but I suspect Russia has improved on the quality of its equipment. Who is the name of the man who got himself inside the Tsar's palace and influenced the Tsarina, that is the Tsar's wife, and gave the Tsar really bad advice, who was finally assassinated, but too late to say, what man am I thinking about? Rasputin. Yeah, very, very evil man. Misguided. I used to think he was a communist, but actually I now realize he probably was not even associated with the communists. He was just simply well, the people of the world are looking, and have been looking for years, for another prophet to come. Someone who will have all the answers to the world's problem. Rasputin seemed to have all the answers, and seemed to be a prophet. And the high noble women of Russia just really gallivanted toward him. And even the Tsar's wife did. But some other people in Russia said, hey, this man is very, very evil, very wicked. Oh yeah, a few other dates I want you to remember too. Israel fought 4 wars, 1948, 1956, 1967, 1973. Then the Arabs will no longer fight the Israelis. Now there was a skirmish one time where the few Syrian jets decided to get a little bit aggressive, and the Israelis shot down every one of 90 Syrian jets without losing a jet of their own. And after that, Syria never got aggressive against Israel anymore, at least not in that way. But after the 1973 war, the Arabs then resorted to terrorism. And now they can't do much of that. When we hear of the name Nasser, what is it? Who is it?
Someone who liked the new ways.
Egypt.
India?
Thank
Egypt, I associate with
Egypt. Yeah, Egypt. He was the leader of Egypt for many years. Again, if you had gone up to the school when I did, you'd have heard a lot. He made a lot of news, but he was the leader of Egypt for a good many years. Took over, I believe, in the 1950s, after the 1956 war. He took over and lasted until he died sometime around 1968 or thereabouts. But he was the leader of it. He watched his armies get clobbered. Well, he actually was on a battlefield in 1956. And they say he tore off from the battlefield and ran pell-mell from the battle, leaving his weapons behind. And then got to Cairo, didn't stop running to go all the way to Cairo, and then organized a bunch of other persons who had also run from the battle and overthrew King Farouk. But his armies in 1967 did no better. He also took over the Suez Canal, and our own president gave it back to him. He took over, but Great Britain and France and Israel went in to take it back, but President Eisenhower sided with Egypt, and Great Britain and France and Israel backed down. Something my dad always held against Ike. Okay. I've spent a lot of the semester, folk, talking against socialism. Anyone define for me then just what is socialism? In about one sentence, it means, socialism means the government owns all businesses. There is no private corporate. The government owns all business. The difference between it and communism is more extreme. But socialism is the government owns all business, so everybody then works for the government. You turn in all your produce to the government, and then the government redistributes the produce to you. But the government owns the businesses. That's socialism. It leads to the government taking over, but it also guarantees that everybody is going to get paid the same, whether you work or not. And this destroys incentive, where the result is that it doesn't work. People will not work unless they have incentive to do so. Now, one communist woman one time said, people should be made to work. That doesn't work. People should be rewarded for their work, and then they'll work harder. Socialism, hey, you're going to be rewarded whether you work or not. So why should you try? If any of you can name a country or a place on earth where the socialism has actually worked, I'd like to hear it. One example is Venezuela. No, in Venezuela, they're on the brink of rioting, on the brink of civil war. So they're starving. They're going to the garbage cans to try to salvage anything they can. Sounds gross, but that's what's going on. And you have people who blame the United States. But Venezuela is a worst case example. Hasn't worked. Socialism promises everybody will be equal. That's the main thing. In other words, your CEO will be paid just as much as the janitor. Or you might say the janitor will be paid as much as the CEO. And all of us will go down in poverty together. Oh yes, in 1979, or since 1979, the nation of Iraq has invaded 2 countries. Any of you name the 2? You know, Iraq has invaded 2 countries since 1979.
Iran.
Iran, excellent,
and,
excellent
Kuwait.
answer. And hey, I didn't think anyone would get that. Iran and Kuwait. They invaded Iran in 1970. I got a war started that they could not end. They invaded Kuwait in 1990. And this time they tried to get Iran on their side, but Iran would not help them. But they fought an 8-year-long war which nobody won. From 1979 to about 1987 or 1988, thereabouts. And then when both sides finally agreed to something that resembled a truce, with neither side having won. All right, this name right here.
Okay, I got those 2 mixed up.
What's that?
I got those 2 mixed up.
Okay, Nehru. Nehru is where? From where?
India?
India.
India.
Nehru is from India. Yeah, again, folks, again, if you had grown up when I did, you'd have heard Nehru made a lot of news when I was a kid. But again, Nehru was from India. He took the place of, and my mind's going blank. Who was the man he took his place of? Gandhi.
Gandhi.
Yeah, he took the place of Gandhi when Gandhi was shot dead. Nehru. All right. I want to talk a little bit about the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment was misused by a certain man 200 years after the Enlightenment happened in a certain country. Now, from all the hint I've given you, who knows what I'm thinking about? There was a certain man in a certain country 200 years after the Enlightenment misused it. Yes.
What's his name? Pol Pot?
His name was Pol Pot, and the country was
Cambodia.
Cambodia. And he killed 1 million people in Cambodia, and nobody else would step in until, of all people, Vietnam itself. Vietnam had just been united 4 years before. But Vietnam sent its army in and drove Pol Pot deep into the jungle, where Pol Pot remained till the day he died. But Pol Pot was trying to help his people by making them animals again. In other words, because human is nothing more than an animal, so we must get rid of all trappings of civilization. If you wore glasses, you could be killed. If you were educated, you'd be killed. And all just basically we're going to become animals, and that way we'd all be happy and war would end. The man was deluded. All right, Martin Luther King followed in the footsteps of what other leader?
Gandhi?
Gandhi. In it, he believed and preached nonviolence. Gandhi, also known as Mohandas, or Great Soul. All right, what was the difference between Nehru and Gandhi? Nehru believed and Gandhi believed.
Gandhi was
believed in the
very
new
old
ways.
and old age and never wanted the new.
Right.
Yeah, Gandhi, Nehru was in favor of Westernizing, copying Western ways, using automobiles and trucks and airplanes and modernizing. Gandhi wanted to get rid of all that stuff and return completely old ways, and including having his women resort to the use of the spinning wheel. The spinning wheel became a symbol of, hey, you know, we're going back to the old ways, and the result was it didn't work. The modern world is here and here to stay. Nehru realized it. Gandhi died without realizing it. But Gandhi dressed in the old-fashioned Hindu way of dressing, loose, like white clothing, very loose-fitting. Again, that's suitable to the Indian climate, because India, you may know, has a very hot climate. And loose-fitting clothing is a way to keep yourself cool in that hot climate. But anyway,